All right. Welcome back to Tuesday night. And it is football time. We're going to wait for Eric to get on real quick. Once we get into that, we'll get into our football. But thank you for coming out and joining us. Hope you guys are having a great Tuesday night. Hopefully some good weather is coming in, some fall weather, and we'll get to enjoy that. So other than that, lots of football to talk about tonight on Chalk Talk. But we're going to wait for Eric, and then we'll get going. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, now is your chance to go subscribe. Dash of Life, go subscribe. You got lots of stuff to look over. I've done many interviews. We got sports, we got comics, you name it, it's all on there. So go check it out. And here we go. Connected, and we'll get started. Yep, we had an issue. Let's try it again. Let's try one more time. It says we can't bring you on. We're gonna try it again. There we go. Technical difficulties always. There we go.
Hey man, good to see you.
Good to see you, buddy. You ready for some Chalk Talks?
Been waiting for a long time, good man. How you been?
I think I like the name. The name, the name suits a lot better than what we had last time. So a lot of football we missed. But the good thing, folks, is this is going to be now a weekly show, which is I'm most excited for.
Me too.
But before we get started, I just want to tell you, my wife thinks you sound like Bob Stoops. End of story. She didn't.
So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That's it. She goes, man, when he's talking, he sounds just like Bob Stoops when he's talking. I'm like, you know what? He kind of does. So no,
that's good.
That's a compliment. That's good. A great compliment, especially coming from. So welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. I brought my Dak hat too.
Yeah, there you go. Man, we missed some. We had some great games the week before and great games this past weekend. So we'll get into that. One question I have for you, and you brought it up as well, is the injuries? Are we seeing injuries as to why certain teams are doing way better than what we expected when we did our first show, or is it just we underestimated and it can follows into the college scene as well, where I think COVID played a big role with how certain college teams are playing this year. Is injuries and COVID and how they practice and things, is that having a big effect on certain teams this year?
So I mean, early on we've had some pretty good injuries. We placed a lot of, the NFL, there's been a lot of players on the IR. One thing that, from the Buccaneers perspective, one thing that Coach Arians said last year was that they were able to avoid the COVID bug. And that's one of the reasons why they were able to go to the Super Bowl. They were mostly healthy. And, Antonio Brown got hit with it this weekend. And I don't want to say he would have been a difference maker, but he definitely has the capability to. So that probably affected that game a little bit. Quarterbacks, Andy Dalton going out, just put Fields in. And Justin Fields just wasn't ready. Coach Nagy, to his credit, didn't want to bring him in. From my perspective, I think what we're seeing right now, it's pretty normal. I don't think it's anything crazy. But Dalvin Cook going out, I actually thought was gonna hurt the Vikings, and they ended up putting the ball in Kirk Cousins' hands, and he ended up doing really, really well. So, COVID so far hasn't seemed to be an issue. It doesn't seem like it, other than the Antonio Brown thing. Now, I say that, but the Saints last week, all the experts were essentially giving the Saints a pass because they had 8 assistant coaches out with COVID. They were on the COVID list. So, those are coaches. Michael Thomas had it. He was already on the IR from ankle surgery. But I just think what we're seeing is I think it's on par with normal now. Okay. I don't know, what do you think?
No, I'm right there with you. We got an Angel, a friend of mine, says the turf fields are hurting the players more than COVID or anything, and I wholeheartedly agree. I think it just goes back to conditioning and the injuries that we see are going to be normal no matter what. From Tua. Tua's injury prone. He was injury prone in Alabama and college. Certain players are injury prone, and I think that's just part of the game. I don't think COVID. I mean, I think, and again, I don't want to turn this into a political or anything like that. What I think with the COVID that's going on is just predominantly just precaution. If they might not be showing any, obviously they're not showing any symptoms. They're just precaution wise doing what anybody else would do anywhere precaution wise. So I don't think that's really hurt. I do think the injuries are a little bit more this year. Like like last night, the Eagles, it showed on the Eagles offensive line. 100% showed that those injuries. Now, I'm not saying that the Eagles were going to go out and just dominate the West, or excuse me, the East, but you could just tell that there was a difference in that offensive line from the first week to last night. So, and I'm not taking anything away from the Cowboys.
Sure.
That defense played phenomenal last night, but you can just see, and again, it's just, I just think when we're talking about, I think we're seeing the normal, like you said, just normal average, and I don't think it's really had a big outcome on any one team just yet, but that could definitely change.
Well, one thing I'm looking at from an injury perspective this year, number one, this is a 17-game season for them, and they offset that by losing one preseason game. So, right. We talked about the last time Aaron Rodgers didn't see any preseason time, they were resting him, but all the other players who do need that conditioning, who rely on that consistency, they saw that in week 1 of the regular season. So maybe some injuries were attributed to that, conditioning. Some teams just looked weak, lazy that first week. And, when I was coaching football, the first thing we taught was when you're tired, what do? You drop your shoulders. When you drop your shoulders, what happens? Somebody who's in a lot better condition is going to blow you up.
So they're going to knock your block off.
That's exactly right, because they did keep themselves in peak condition. So what happens, in the second half of the season, down that final stretch, injuries very well may be a huge issue, or, a pitch count. I'm sure we'll probably be talking about that later on in the season. Are they going to put the superstar pitch counts? Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm already on some teams. I believe we'll be seeing it before even the second half, especially some of the teams that are saving him up for that Super Bowl run.
Yeah,
I think we could see a lot of pitch counts, and that and I think that's going to be. I don't know. I mean, obviously, this is the first year that we're going to be dealing with a 17-game season, and we'll be able to make better adjustments and see what goes on with it. But do you think that is a good idea to do that pitch count? I mean, what do you think?
These players are worth hundreds of millions of dollars nowadays. I mean, Patrick Mahomes worth $500 million. I think if you're asked the player, I think they'd be like, heck no, put me in. I personally don't think we're going to see a lot of pitch counts. Maybe on the older players, maybe Tom Brady takes a rest. We'll be talking about him in a minute. Maybe they'll give him a little rest. But, there's only one team that gets a bye this year. The number 1 seed is the only one that gets a bye. So everybody's going to be fighting for that, either that extra playoff spot or that home field, so they can get that rest. So I personally don't see it in the cards with pitch counts, especially, if the injuries, if we start to see some significant injuries, like, we've seen some pretty marquee players going out early, even though it hasn't been a ton. I don't expect to see a pitch count.
Yeah. I was when you started talking about that when we were messaging back and forth, I kind of likened it to what we're seeing kind of in the NBA lately, where people are taking nights off and resting. And I was just, yeah, I'm glad you brought up the pitch count. I'm kind of curious to see if we see that now with a 17-game season, if we see more, if we see a Tom, like you said, and we'll talk about it later, but we see a Tom Brady sit out a game or Aaron Rodgers sit out a game. It'll be interesting and curious to see that. Is Tua done in Miami?
Man, good friend of mine at work is a huge Dolphins fan, and I don't necessarily think he's done. I personally was never sold on Tua. He's a great guy. He's a huge team player. I have always seen him more as a backup quarterback. So I don't want him to be done in the NFL, but I don't know. Just like you said earlier, he's had some significant injuries in two significant injuries in 3.5 years.
3.5 seasons, yeah.
Yeah, 3.5. Yeah, so I think he may be his days may be numbered as a starter. Let's put it that way. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. I just I listen to a lot of sports radio. I read the comments on ESPN pages and things like that, and that was one of the questions that was brought up a lot since his injury. And he was obviously, I don't know if he was missed this weekend, but some presence of him was missed during that game for sure. And I think he's a good on-field leader. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if he's a starting quarterback, like you said, or you, like you I'm with you, where he kind of gets relegated back to a backup quarterback. But I think he does have a little bit of on-field leadership, and I think he was missed a little bit over this weekend. But it was just curious. I'm hearing a lot of rattle that they want to move on from him, and they're looking at another possible quarterback in this draft that's coming up. So,
well, I think they'll definitely give him a couple years to mature. They've got a great coaching staff in there in Miami. So if anybody can turn him into that number one guy, it'd be Coach Flores down there. So time will tell, but I really hope he stays in. I really do.
I agree. I mean, I like him too. I think he's a great kid, and there's never really been any, other than his injuries, there's never really been a bad thing said about him. So again, I do hope that I hope he stays there. So another question I got for you, and I posed this the other day. Are Chubb and Hunt on par or better than Mack and Biner?
Oh man, I got to give the edge to these two backs right now. They're definitely more dynamic. I mean, Mack and Biner were just skull crushers, and excellent low center of gravity, great balance. But the two backs they have now, I mean, these guys are literally jumping over defensive backs. And, they're catching balls in the backfield, and they're also running up the middle. Wow, I definitely think these two backs now are probably the best two that they've ever had, for sure.
And these two might be the best back tandem in NFL, right? I mean, ever.
The tandem?
I mean, as a tandem, a duo, as the best back duo I have seen. Just like I said, since Mack and Biner, we've had a lot of great duos. Don't get me wrong, but they're just watching the last, since the game, the whole season has started. I've watched, Cleveland games, and I just watch how both of them can just do things that certain backs can't do anymore.
Oh yeah.
And even my wife doesn't watch football a whole lot.
we were watching this past weekend, and she just like, I love watching them two guys run, and I'm like, yeah, they're pretty spectacular. So I mean, if Cleveland's got the offensive line, Cleveland's got the receivers, they got the quarterback, and they got the running backs. This is Cleveland's year, without a doubt. So.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about this game here in a little bit also, right? So, I mean, these two guys both rushed for over 80 yards this weekend, and you know these guys averaged 7+ yards a carry. That's no disrespect to Ezekiel and Pollard, to Zeke and Pollard there in Dallas, who had a fantastic game also, but. I think this backfield this weekend was the best. Cleveland had over 200 yards rushing on that game, on the backs of just two backs, not even combined. You know, they didn't even have 35 combined rushes, and they still rushed for over 215 yards. So definitely,
I think they're the more I think they're the more consistent.
I was just going to say.
Duo.
I was just going to say.
Not taking anything away from.
Go ahead.
No, I think they're the most consistent. Not taking anything away from Pollard and Zeke at all, but Zeke is a little inconsistent at times. Where I just see consistent, good runs. Even if Cleveland's having, or even if Baker's having a crappy game, Hunt and Chubb are always consistent.
Yeah, totally. And the game plan is set up perfect for those two. Their run scheme is excellent. And that offensive line against the run, I mean, they're the number 2 rushing team in the NFL right now. So they're clearly doing something right on the ball in the ground. And, you know, in the AFC, and especially in that division, those are some, you know, there's some pounding divisions. And, you know, that's a hard-nosed football division where running the ball, stopping it on defense, those are key elements of winning in that division. And, you know, for the running game, they got that down pat this year.
Yeah, totally. One more question before we get into the games and everything. Are the Rams the best NFC team? Are they the best overall NFC team right now?
For right now, yeah. I mean, we're into week 3. I would definitely say they're the number 1 team in the NFC for the moment. Obviously, a lot can happen, but you know what they showed against Tampa Bay was, I mean, very impressive, and on you know, both sides of the ball. And I think we're going to talk about this game here in a minute too. But yeah, definitely got to give it to them for sure.
Mm-hmm.
They may be the best team in the league.
Yeah, I think agreed. Yeah, they might be the best team. And again, I hate jumping in and saying, oh, this team's going to go to the Super Bowl. We're three games and we still got 14 games left. I get it, but to me, they've looked, as far as all the rest of the teams out there, they have looked the most consistent and they exposed the Tampa Bay defense that was pretty stingy last year. They exposed.
Yeah. I've got some comments on that Tampa D here in a little bit. I do have a question for you, though.
All right. Well, let's talk about the. Okay. Go ahead.
So, I wanted to ask your thoughts on the penalty situation in the NFL right now. We had one game that was affected. The outcome was affected by the penalties. And, you know, I had to go back and watch that video because I didn't watch the Lions game. But the Lions lost that game because of the delay of game. But also now the record book has changed. And I take nothing away from Justin Tucker. Fantastic kicker. He's a great guy. But if you give him that delay of game penalty, he doesn't kick a 71-yard field goal and then all of a sudden be in the record book. So I just wanted your thoughts on penalties this year. It just seems like there's a lot of them at really unfortunate times. And I know we talk about them every year.
There is, there is a huge amount. I mean, there was some last night. In last night's game, I was like, that could have you could have let that slide or something. And I feel like there's a lot more laundry being thrown this year, and taunting. Oh my, I cannot stand the taunting. That is so subjective. I think it's subjective. What one ref might call, another one might not. And I think it is so unfair if let these kids and we got to agree that some of these guys are still kids. Let them play. Let them play. Let them, unless they're doing something dirty and blatantly that's just obscene and offensive to somebody, standing over somebody going,
yeah, I know every year, we always talk about penalties and nobody likes the refs. And I have a personal pain due to what happened to the Saints in the championship game a couple years. So I definitely know that this stuff can be terrible. But the thing that has really frustrated me about the National Football League over the last couple years is the way they're taking the emotion out of it. I totally understand helmet to helmet hits. I completely understand that. Safety is paramount. But what I don't like is like the taunting penalty. Now there's an emphasis on that this year, and these kids are already revved up, and almost all of them are type A personalities where they just want to go out 90-0.
oh yeah,
Mach 2 with their hair on fire and win. And, the refs are, and they're not thinking, oh, don't do this. I mean, I just wish that they would give them a little more emotion instead of just letting them have some fun celebration in the end zone. You know what I mean? Let them, that's what's frustrating me.
Yeah, I agree. It's and like you said, the Lions game was a prime factor of where just missing a blatant. I mean, that zero was on the clock for 3-4 seconds, and they didn't call it, and they're missed. And I hate that causes the outcome and or ruins the outcome of something. I don't know. I mean, every year it's something new with a penalty or the penalties being called. It's something new with just how it affects the game. And I wish we could. I don't have an answer for it, because if I did, I would probably be a ref, or an official or something.
Right.
I don't know. Man, yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna be curious as maybe I'm hoping it's just like some of these kids, it's jitters and new, it's because it's new. Maybe the rest of the season we'll get a better idea of what it's going to be like. Hopefully it's just they're getting into it. We are more worried about, let's see. Angel says we are more worried about taunting than holding calls right now. Nick Bosa has been held more times this year than any other players, and the Niners should be 3-0. I haven't seen a whole lot of the Niners games. I apologize on that, Angel. But yeah, I agree. I think there's more, like we said. I think there's an emphasis on that because it is a new rule. I think they are looking more for is so and so showing off with the cross arms, or is this player getting held? Now, like I said last night during the Dallas and Philadelphia game, there were some calls that could have not been called as holding. That was just, there was some. And again, I love Dallas, but I'm trying to be as unbiased as I can in a show. There were some calls that were, I think, that could have not been called as holding just because of, I don't know. I think there's certain refs are focused on one thing, certain refs are focused on one thing, and each ref is different. I don't know. Like I said, hopefully as the season progresses, we'll get more consistent with certain things, but I might be asking for a whole lot.
Well, the league announced that it was putting an emphasis on the taunting call, like they did, a couple years ago when they started the emphasis on the helmet with the crown of the helmet and stuff like that. So you can bet you're going to see more and more taunting calls. And yeah, the holding penalties are, those are always tough to call. I do agree that I think the Niners got hosed on at least 2 that I have seen, because I was just thinking the same thing. And the Chargers, they had 3 touchdowns taken off the board
I didn't get
in
to
2
catch.
weeks.
Yeah, I didn't get to catch the other one the other night. So. Yeah, it's. I like I said, if we knew, probably we'd be in a better position to be in the NFL. But like I said, I haven't caught a whole lot of the Niners games. Nothing personal against the Niners. I like them, but sometimes my wifely wants me to do some certain things when certain games are on. So I got to be honest on that one. So let's. All right, let's get into the game. The first game I want to talk about is the Browns and the Bears. My first take on it was, I think there was a lot of people trying to bag on Justin Fields, and in no way is this kid. This kid just didn't have time. That offensive line gave him nothing to work with, and that was I don't know if that was indicative of the full entire Bears season. I don't know. I think that was just the Browns they were pumped, and I don't know. Justin, I do know he's in for a long season, but not because of that. I just think he's in for a long season because he's got a big learning curve. But I think he's gonna make it. I do. But that offense, that offensive line for the Bears was just atrocious.
Yeah. So about Justin Fields, I wasn't a fan when he was drafted. I thought he was in a fantastic system in Ohio State. Ohio State has a lot of national prestige, so he's automatically going to get some credit. I don't think he's first round material. Now, with that said, very talented athlete, so I don't want to take anything away, but what I've seen from him over the last week and a half, he was sacked more times than he completed a pass. He only had 6 completions, but he was sacked 9 times. But yet he dropped back to pass 26 times. So he did throw the ball. I think he was 6 for 20. And looking at some of the tape and listening to some of the commentary that they were saying, he's not showing the vision that he needs. Now, granted, it could be because he's got a defender in his face all day. Any quarterback is going to have a problem if they've been getting pounded. That's what all defensive linemen, that's what all defenses are taught to do, is get after the quarterback, put the pressure on him, get in their head. And so maybe that is what's happening. But, it's some of the tape I've seen when he isn't, he's got that perfect pocket around him. He's just completely making the wrong read, and he's waiting too long to throw into coverage. So he's giving the defenders plenty of time to make up any distance that the receivers created. So it's still way too early. In defense of the Bears, Coach Nagy didn't want to start him right away, and maybe he felt he was pressed into it following the Dalton injury. But now he's in an even worse problem, because now, his press conference last night, or I think it was yesterday or something, he's like, hey, all 3 of them can go. So, it's definitely, it's no confidence for Fields. But I don't think he should be the answer this year. I think that's a guy that's going to need some time. Or if you are going to run with him, let him do one of the things he does really well. Let him run, turn him into a Lamar Jackson style. The problem is, I don't know if anybody on that offensive staff is capable of doing that. So that's going to be interesting. But that's on the Bears side of the ball. Now, Cleveland, on the other hand, this Cleveland team still probably learning how to win a little bit. And, at first this game wasn't really a blowaway at first. But, the defense made sure that it was going to it wasn't going to be a letdown game by any stretch of the imagination. Cleveland's got some pretty tough games coming up, so this one might have been a game maybe, you might think they would overlook. Defense made sure that didn't happen, bringing the intensity. But then, as we talked about earlier, on the other side of the ball, that running game was just crushing it. And, that offense, that running game looks solid. Now, their passing game, they're going to have to figure out what to do between Baker Mayfield and the offensive line, because he himself was sacked 5 times. And that's 9 on the year.
Yeah.
And if Baker Mayfield's going to, number one, grow, but also that team's going to turn out to be more balanced as the season wears on and they start playing, tougher defenses with a lot more on the line, that could be trouble for Cleveland. Right now, they're still in my opinion, in the driver's seat, with that good running game, fantastic defense that's just all over the field. But that passing game is they're going to have to improve.
Yeah, as highly touted as that offensive line was in the, I literally saw every preseason magazine, ESPN, everybody saying the number one offensive line in NFL football was the Cleveland Browns. They're at times they're showing some great stuff, but yeah, you're right. He was sacked 5 times. So yeah, they got some work to do there. I still think he and OBJ need to get on the same page a little bit. I know he's been injured, but that's always been a thing. I mean, with Jarvis Landry and him have always had a connection,
right?
And him and the running backs and Hooper, they've all had a great relationship. I don't know what it is between Baker and OBJ, and they look pretty good, and I didn't see any back talking between the two of them throughout the game. But they still need to kind of get on the same page a little bit, I think.
Yeah, OBJ, huge personality, fantastic football player. He's that kind of guy that wants the ball every single time. And you're right, he's been out this whole year and hasn't really had a chance to work with the offense. And so what do you have, like 5 catches for 70, 75, 78 yards, something like that? So, he definitely performed.
Yeah.
With Jarvis Landry out, and I think Jarvis Landry's on the IR, so this is going to give OBJ and him some time to rebuild that rapport that they had in the middle. I think in the middle of last year they started doing pretty well. So, but I read an article on ESPN that said those two guys were gelling pretty well. So,
yeah, I'm just speaking from last year, and it just seemed like they were not on the same page at all. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I did see. Maybe it is because there's so much where Baker likes to spread the ball around. Even if he had, even if OBJ wasn't on there, he would spread the ball around. And I think OBJ came from places where he was top dog. This is just me as a fan and seeing from New York and things like that. OBJ was top dog. He was always going to OBJ if it didn't. Where I know Baker, even in college, Baker spread it around to 10, 15 different receivers if he could. So, and I think he still plays with that. And Baker's gotten a lot better on his checkdowns. I can say that from last year to this year, even in 3 games, he's gotten a lot better on his checkdowns. And I think he's evolving into a pretty good, where you were talking about him. He could very well be in the MVP talks here before too long.
Yeah, now that Hunt is in full time, that's going to help on the check down situation. But of course, that's going to take some reps off of OBJ. So it'll be interesting to see, if OBJ doesn't get his 10, 12 targets a year that he really likes, or 10, 12 targets a game. I'm sorry, that he really likes to have.
Yeah.
But, we'll see, but I do agree with you. I did see you could see it last year, and everybody had been talking about it in the offseason and early in the season because OBJ was out. So while they obviously connected, OBJ was wide receiver number 1 anyway. So they would have to. You're right. You'd think they would have to connect. And Baker, you're right. Baker's a slinger. He's going to get it to his guys. So it's something we should look at, though.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's on my checklist for this year is definitely watching that relationship either gel even better or implode, and I guess time will tell. But I like the way Browns are playing right now. We both kind of picked them at the beginning, and it'll be good to see if that is, especially seeing that Pittsburgh is. I don't even know what's going on in Pittsburgh right now. I don't. I mean, I don't know. I think it's time for Ben to go. I really do, and I don't. And it's definitely not. Landry Jones is not the answer to Pittsburgh's woes and whatnot. But I think that division right now could really just be owned by Baltimore, or excuse me, Cleveland, if it wasn't for some bad calls for a fumble here in Kansas City and a bad call in another place. So
I agree.
Let's talk about that Rams Bucs. Let's talk about that Rams Bucs game. I think that was the meeting. I think that was the meeting of possibly the NFC showdown, the NFC championship game right there.
Yeah, that's what they were saying all day. This was one game I was super excited to watch. I really was. I'm still angry at the Rams for the refs stealing the Super Bowl from the Saints, but you know the Buccaneers are in the NFC South, and I don't want to see them win any week. So, but it's powerhouse teams, it's powerhouse football, it's entertainment, and this game really. It really did provide all the niceties, I guess you could say, that I was hoping for. Now, you look in terms of the matchup. So if you first look at the Rams, you know, bringing on Matt Stafford for a truckload, what the Rams gave up to get Stafford, and I think this is the reason why the Rams did that was for games like this. Right here, we said a couple weeks ago we both think that Matthew Stafford's a better quarterback than Jared Goff, and you know for a tinker coach like Coach McVay who likes to get real good and real creative, he's got to having a better quarterback is going to help him. Now this game was a bigger game for Matt Stafford than it was for Tom Brady. Tom Brady's been in these games hundreds of times, you know, big games. Potential playoff implications, potential home field. Yeah, it's a Sunday for Tom Brady. But Matthew Stafford didn't have very many of these games in Detroit. So this was a huge game for him. He obviously showed up. He showed why he was worth the truckload. And the other interesting thing, we talked about the Rams, and last couple weeks ago we talked about McVay potentially, being on the hot seat. We look at the team that they were during that Super Bowl run, and when they were really, really good, they were mostly predicated on the run of that zone blocking scheme that's been really good.
Yeah.
But then that sets up the pass, and Jared Goff, he performed. But this team is built more on Stafford's shoulders. It's more of a downfield kind of team, and you got to have a better quarterback capable of managing that situation. And I think Stafford definitely showed that he could do it. It's only week 3. Time will tell. They could obviously implode, but for the game that it was, we got to give the credit where credit is due, and that was definitely his game.
Yeah, he tore apart that defense. I don't know if it was just bad reads on the defense, if they just miscommunication. But he was just, this is the Matt Stafford I saw in Georgia, years ago. And then this was what I was hoping I would see in Detroit. Obviously, Detroit's never had a on offensive line. We've known that. But he looks comfortable. He doesn't look scared. He doesn't look rushed, and he looks really, really good in that Rams offensive scheme. So like I said, I don't get a whole lot of West Coast time to watch football or watch football But I just think, man, you're right. He is performing to that money that they spent on him, and it's good to see. I'm glad he didn't go in there and just bust and bust and bust. So I'm really proud of them. Brady didn't look. I mean, Brady's Brady, and maybe I'm just trying to be too pickish on him, but he didn't look like Brady on Sunday.
Well, I think the defensive scheme helped out with that. Not having a player like Antonio Brown really helped out. Also, the offense on the offense on the Rams that really allowed, that played that really left constant field offense, just taking the time of possession away, kind of didn't fully let him get on his rhythm. But maybe we could chalk it up to an off day. I don't know. But Tom Brady was the leading rusher for the Buccaneers that day. So that probably tells us all we need to know about what they did to the run. So that's really all that needs to be said. Now, the one interest, you're right. I don't think Tom Brady looked good. For Tom Brady, right? He's still, 41 completions, but he threw the ball 55 times. Now, you got to go a long ways back to find when Brady was throwing that much. And we talked about pitch count a minute. He's going to be one to watch, especially right now he's averaging 31 attempts a game. And that's about 500 season. This is throughout his career. He's averaged 31 attempts, about 500 attempts per season throughout his career. The most ever in his career, I think, was 2012, and he had like 637 attempts. A lot of attempts, but he'd only been in the league for a couple years. This year, he's on pace for 658 attempts just this year alone, and that is taking into account the extra season. Yeah. So you're talking averaging 47 a game. Now, you keep playing a team like the Rams, and he's going to have to throw the ball to keep up. The Buccaneers pass defense is last in the league right now through 3 weeks. They're just their defense in the secondary is just terrible. I think I saw something where they're bringing in Sherman for a look to shore up the secondary. They do have some injuries in the secondary, so I can understand that. That definitely hurts you, but the Rams blew them away with pretty much. Cooper Kupp. Not even Woods had a crazy, fantastic day. Now, Deshaun Jackson had that one. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even know he was with the Rams. So, congratulations to him. That dude is still running super fast.
I didn't either. That shocked me when they said there's Deshaun Jackson behind the defender going. Yeah. I was like, what? Yeah. My buddy Burns says Stafford spent years playing behind a mediocre line with hardly no receiving core. The Rams gave him a Lamborghini to drive with no speed limit. Yeah, I absolutely.
Yeah, and that was with the coaching staff that'll design things around him. And if none of my teams are going to make it, if it ends up being the Rams and, I don't know, the Chiefs or somebody, normal in this that's been to the Super Bowl a lot, I think I might pull for the Rams just because of Matt Stafford.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of his, and like I just said a minute ago, I'm just glad to see him succeeding, even if it is for 6 games and they have a truck wreck or whatever happens. I'm glad to see him succeeding, at least so far.
Completely.
Yeah. Dallas, Philadelphia. Does Dallas have the offense to put up? Now they're not going to put up 40 points every game. They're not going to be a Kansas City. But do they have an offense this year that can be pretty close to consistently putting up 35, 40 points a game?
Yeah, they're a lot. I have to give Coach McCarthy a lot of credit here because they're a lot more balanced than I thought they were going to be. And Pollard's. You probably know this more than me. Pollard's been with that team for a couple of years, like quite a few years, and I don't remember the production out of him like they're getting right now. He's averaging 7 yards a carry, and that's crazy. So, that's a huge Cowboy fan. You can probably give some more insight into Pollard, but we know what we're going to get out of Zeke. Excellent, strong downhill runner. He's definitely your goal line guy. Ton of weapons at the wideout position. You got two fantastic possession wide receivers. Oh, by the way, they can also both block. One of them can block really well. I think Schultz is more of a pass catching tight end, right? But if the
well, they both turned into.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they both turned into pretty good pass catching, but Schultz is definitely the better blocker, but he's still a better receiver out there as a tight end.
Yeah, as long as that offensive line can stay healthy, and obviously we talked about this before, if Dak is the anchor, if he stays healthy, then this team. I really, really like what Kellen is doing with that offense. I think he could have a long future in the NFL as a coach.
I'm not saying the defense is still not. I kind of liken them to Kansas City, if you will, where Kansas City can put up a lot of points, but they kind of have that middle to not quite top defense. They kind of sit stuck in that middle of the pack defense, but they put up enough points where they win the game. I kind of liken that to what Dallas is right now. Now, granted, they got some great. Don't get me wrong, Diggs did awesome last night, and I'll think of his name here in a second. They got some bright spots on defense, but as a whole, I don't think last night's game was indicative of what we're going to see every game from that defense. So I think the offense in Dallas has to actually put up a lot of points, and I think they can do it. I think they have the playmakers available now. Like you said, Pollard, that dude's a monster now. I mean, he's always been a good third down back for us, but now he's becoming more of a role player that I think we've missed, that we always knew that he could be, but we've been missing because we didn't utilize him. I think Kellen has finally seen that and is now utilizing him as that back that they need to have, that third down back that he can slip out and do the screens and then you run Zeke, and then bam, here comes Pollard, and they're not ready for it. He scoots through the tackles for 15 yards. So I think Dallas has the offense, but I'm just still not sold 100% on the defense right now.
Yeah, I've seen all three Cowboy games this year. Where I live, you're either a Saints fan or a Cowboy fan, so we get both of them all the time. So it's really good for me. It's good football for me. So what I saw last night, the intensity from that defense, I did not see against the Chargers or against the Buccaneers. I just didn't see it. And those two teams are a lot better. So I can understand, giving up more points against the Buccaneers. I can understand that. Going to San Diego or going to LA, and Chargers are a tough offensive team, though the defense still did okay. But the intensity that I saw last night, I'm going to chop this poor kid's name, but what I think was the play of the game on the defense last night was not the pick six, but it was when that nose tackle. I don't want to chop his name. When
that rookie from from Alabama as well.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts steps up into the pocket, and that kid just grabs him and takes him down. And I was like, it was one of the coolest plays I saw all season so far. And that's an intense play, and you're probably not going to make that every single time. But the way that defense just looked ready to come out and level up their intensity, I was very impressed with that, with the intensity.
Yeah, it was It was a good overall. I'm like, they were flying. They were just flying to the ball, just everywhere. Wherever the ball was at, they were there, and they looked really good. And again, I know that Philadelphia's offensive line is down 3 offensive linemen, one for almost a season, I think, and a couple are for a couple of games or whatever.
Yeah.
So I get that, but I have not been impressed with Philadelphia since the first week. They didn't look good against the Niners, and they didn't look good against Dallas last night. And I think and hear me out, NFL fans and Philadelphia fans, if you're watching. I know you got a first-year coach, a first-year offensive coordinator, and a first-year defensive coordinator. I got it, and I'm not saying that that's not the reason, but they just did. They looked like they'd never seen the football last night for whatever reason, and my wife kept saying, why is Jalen always running to his right? Why is he always running to his right? Why is he always? Because that's what he did in Oklahoma, and he's not going to do what he did in Oklahoma in the pros. That's that, I like Jalen, great kid, and I think he's got a long future in the NFL. But he's got to change some things up. Some of those penalties were his fault for the lineman being downfield last night. He extended the play way too long, and the linemen are just doing what they're told. A lot of those penalties could have been I think he gets jittery and scared quick.
Yeah, he was only sacked twice, but he seemed like he was definitely under pressure a lot more than that, and he just, to me, he didn't look comfortable really from the beginning. When on the pick six, I can't necessarily put that on him because the receiver slipped, but you could tell afterwards. When he went to the sidelines, you could see reading lips. He asked the wide receiver what happened. And the wide receiver's like, I slipped. And Jalen's like, you slipped? So when he threw the ball, he never saw what happened. So I don't know if that's just, I'm going to this guy right away. I'm not using any of my awareness or anything. That's just I'm not even reading. I'm just dropping back and throwing. So it's going to take some time. I do think there's, some legitimacy to the young coaching staff, young quarterback, but they need to just motivate those kids to be better. They've got a lot of talent on that team. They really do. And Hargrove is a beast in the middle of the defensive line. I mean, that guy is a hoss. So you rally around him.
Yeah, he's good.
Yep.
And again, like you said, and he's still a young quarterback. And I think they said it even in the game last night. He's still technically a rookie. I mean, he's only started 8 games, I think. So he's still technically a rookie, and he's going to make. And even though it's his second year, I know he's going to make some rookie mistakes. I think in the long run, Philadelphia is going to get a lot better, and they're going to be a beast in the East for a while, and I think that's Dallas, and I just don't know what's I talked about this with my buddy Vern. Any team that has Jason Garrett as a coach, I need you to just raise your hand, turn that hand, and then slap yourself in the face. Jason Garrett is not going to be an answer to any team, ladies and gentlemen. Jason Garrett is not going to be the answer to any team.
No.
That is such a train wreck in New York right now. Such a train wreck. You went against the worst team in football yesterday, on Sunday. You went against the worst team stat-wise and even on field-wise in the Atlanta Falcons, and you lost.
And I think they were at home, right? I think that game was in New York. Yeah, well, again, that's what I like what Kellen Moore is doing. He's starting to prove himself to be a talent evaluator, and what I've seen from the Cowboys this year compared to I think last year was his first season as an OC. They just, they look more prepared. They seem like they're making less mistakes. Dak to me has, even if I can say it, even has better command of the offense. So I think we're starting to see, a Drew Brees, Sean Payton style relationship build between those two, and just like Tom Brady and quarterback's coach, Josh, I can't think of his name right now, but, that kind of relationship where I know what you're going to think before, you call the play. And I think offensively, this Cowboys team could only get better as the year goes by, but that defense is going to be an issue. And I think they'll take care of Philadelphia again in the fall, too, the way things are currently shaken out between these two teams.
Yeah, that was some good games overall. I still like the Chargers. I think Herbert is just a fantastic quarterback. But we'll get more into that next week.
Okay.
We got our dash. You got your so right now, you, as of the week that you did your picks, you are sitting at 8-2, to whereas the guest pickers are 3-7. So you're sitting pretty good right now. You got a commanding lead, but the guest pickers picked again this week.
Oof.
So we've got the first game up.
This is a tough
Jags. Week. Yeah, this is a tough week. We got Jags and Bengals.
Yeah, I got to definitely go with Cincinnati. I think Jacksonville's going to pull it together, but Cincinnati is just quietly performing very well.
Yeah,
this game is in Cincinnati, right?
This is in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
They're looking quiet, like you said, silently, quietly. Just, I might sneak up and surprise some of you guys. So yeah, I agree.
Well,
I'm going with the Bengals as well. Titans, Jets.
Do you say Titans, Jets?
Titans, Jets.
I very well think the Jets could go 0-16. I hate to say it, but I'm going Titans.
I think he's going to have more. I think he's going to have more interceptions than touchdowns. Period this year. So yeah, the guest went with Titans. You're going with Titans, and I am going with Titans. So pretty cool. All right. I think this is an interesting matchup. And just because of what we talked about a little bit about earlier between the two teams, Lions and Bears.
Yeah, this game's in Soldier Field, though, and quarterback controversies they're never a good thing for the cohesion in the locker room. And I think the Lions are competitive. I got a good friend at work who's a Lions fan. He can say it better than anybody. They just always have these things that happen to them. Phantom face mask call when Aaron Rodgers throws a Hail Mary or this delay a game penalty. And I think they're going to overcome it. I'm going with the Lions.
All right. You and I both are going for the Lions. The fans picked the Bears. All right. Next up, we got Browns and Vikings. I don't know if the Vikings just got lucky against Seattle or if they're just kind of just hanging around to see what they can do. I'm intrigued, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's another home game. They did take it to Seattle. I picked Minnesota to win it last week, and I was going with the theory that they got to win one, right? The Vikings are too talented of a team to lose and then lose at home. Even though Seattle, I think, is still a solid football team, even though they're 1-2. But this is such a tough game because Cleveland really high on them at the moment. I think I'm going to go with Minnesota though.
You, along with the guest picker, picked the Vikings. I went with the Browns just because I'm just like you said, I'm high on them. And I just think they've got what it takes this year to kind of put a nice little drive to that playoffs. So, all right. the Washington Football Club at Atlanta. Can Atlanta do it again?
I was hoping we were going to get to talk about defenses today, but we'll have to cover that here soon. And the Washington's defense is absolutely disappointing right now. I think Atlanta wins this game.
Yeah. All three of us, the guest, yourself and I, are taking the Atlanta Falcons. All right. Never in my wildest dreams did I think this quarterback could come into a team and lead them to 3-0. We got the Panthers at the Cowboys. Problem is, Christian McCaffrey is hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, and
does that derail that offense?
Yes, and I think the Cowboys win this game. I don't want to say this game's in Dallas, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't want to say easy because the Panthers, kind of like the Bengals, slowly boiling up, looking really good, solid. But Christian McCaffrey he's your number one playmaker, and so what do? They're going to double up on DJ Moore all day, and take that field away from Sam Darnold, and you take the running game away too. So I think Carolina's going to have too much of that's a matchup problem for Carolina.
Yeah, I agree. All three of us went with the Cowboys, so looking pretty good. Next up, Seahawks at the 49ers.
Wow. San Francisco could easily be 3-0. I think I was wanting them to beat Green Bay, but I think San Francisco wins this game. There's something going on in Seattle right now. There's a lot of talent. Excuse me, a lot of talent. Starting off.
Thank you, Russell Wilson, for taking my MVP.
Yeah. So yeah, I give this one to San Francisco.
I'm with you as well. The guest picker took Seahawks. We're both going with the 49ers. Good pick. I like the 49ers. They had that game, but I just it sometimes Rodgers is Rodgers, and he does some amazing things, whether he wants to not play for that team or not. So, pretty cool. This is the matchup of the week that I am ready for. Battle of Unbeatens. It'll be for first place in the division. Cards, Rams.
Yeah, Cards they slipped up a little bit this weekend. They fell asleep for a little while before they ended up waking up. What a firework kind of game. This game could be huge in terms of points scored. But, I'm a defense wins football games kind of guy, and I think the Rams have the better defense. So I'm going to go with the Rams.
All right. And just because I feel like I know I'm high on the Rams. I really am high on the Rams. But I'm going to take the Cards just because I think we talked about, when we did we said from the beginning in this division, any one of these teams can win this. By no means is Seattle and the 49ers out of it at all. No, by any means are they out of it. I just like the Cards. They're on a pretty good run. I'm going to take the Cards. I want to go against the grain here. So I'm taking the Cards. All right. Sunday Night Football. Tom Brady returns, this time as a visiting quarterback to New England.
Yeah, it's hands down Tampa Bay, though. And, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to hang like 50 points on Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry. I think Tom Brady's going to hang like 50 points on him. He's, that kind of competitor. I don't see this game being an issue at all. I would like to see Mac Jones perform well. He's got a struggling defense he's going up against, and I hope that they take the training wheels off him and just let that kid fly because he can clearly read a defense. He can clearly make adjustments, and he's in the right system, I just think they should just start, letting him chuck it.
Yeah, I agree. I think even though they're 1-2, I still think he's probably one of the most well-rounded rookie quarterbacks playing right now. Out of all of the ones that are drafted, he's probably the best one on the field. So I agree. I have to agree. I got to go with the Bucs. It's going to be nasty. I think he wants to put it to Belichick, and it's just going to be nasty. So all three of us taking the Bucs. And then, last but not least, is this team for real? Monday Night Football. Is this team for real, or are we just seeing something? Are we seeing an anomaly, or are the Raiders for real?
Well, maybe. I mean, 2 overtime games for wins. They're learning how to win them hard, and they've also played some pretty good football teams so far. I mean, Dolphins. It's a solid organization. Well coached, excellent talent. And the Raiders have needed overtime to beat these guys. So, number one, you could say they're gaining that pedigree. They're learning how to win the tight games, and they'll be competitive every single game with a chance to win, which is what you want at the end. However, I just think the Chargers I think the Chargers are going to win this game. I think there's only so much emotion you can ride before you have a letdown. But I will say, if I'm taking the Chargers, but losing to the Chargers on Monday Night Football won't be bad for the Raiders, because it could be a calming moment.
No.
Refocus, focus on our weaknesses, and go out.
If there's a good loss, if there's such thing as a good loss, this will be a good loss for the Raiders. I agree. Again, I am going to take the Chargers, and the fans went with the Chargers. So it's pretty square this week. Some wonderful football games. What's your final thoughts for this week?
Looking at this week's, I'm really looking to see how Kansas City bounces back. I'm really looking at the defenses again. The defenses right now are just atrocious, and teams that you would think are really good on the defensive side of the ball are not. I just think, I think we need to take a look at the defensive side of the ball. I'm really going to be looking at Denver this coming weekend. They've played teams combined 0-9, so they haven't played a lot of people, but their offense is just performing well, and they're winning the games when they should. Now, they've got some better quarterbacks coming up, right? They've got Lamar Jackson coming up. Obviously, they got David Carr coming up. So they've got some tough games they've got coming up. So we'll see if they are first place material in the AFC West. So those are the things I'll be looking at this weekend. And then obviously, Saints can't have a letdown game against those Giants. Can't have it.
No, they can't. I didn't pick that one specifically. I want the Saints games for later down the road for you to pick when it gets time. I was like, I'll throw the Cowboys at him this week, and then we'll kind of throw it up in each week and like that. I agree. My final thoughts are: listen, KC fans, there is nothing to worry about. There are 17 games in this season. There's a long season to go. Don't get down on your team. You've had some mishaps, some turnover happy mishaps, but I think that'll be corrected here coming soon. So don't get down. I think that division is still the West. AFC West is a pretty tough division, and you're going to have to play tough to win it. So don't let yourselves down, KC fans. I think, and I said this at the beginning, and I get and because I see it all over the internet and stuff like that. Stop putting your team in the Super Bowl 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Stop putting them in the Super Bowl. It's a long season, folks. I know you want to talk smack. I know you want to say that But as you saw, some teams looked great week 1 and have dwindled. So stop.
Colts.
Just watch it. Enjoy football, folks. It's back. Enjoy.
Right.
The fans are back. Enjoy it. Watch it. Let's see how it plays out. This is a long season, which I am excited for. So, with that being said, stop putting your team in the Super Bowl every time they win a game. That's it. But that's we'll have more time, and now that this is going to be a weekly thing, we'll be able to get more in tune with what we want to talk about. I too wanted to talk about defense, but I was looking at the clock and I was like, oh man, we got to. I'm on my 2-minute warning here but we'll get more into the what we want to talk about. I like how we get our pregame going on a couple of days ahead. So I like the conversations we were having on Sunday. So it was really cool. But yeah, weekly guys, come back and check with us. This is going to be a weekly thing now. This is now called Chalk Talk. It's phenomenal. The last show we did really great on. We had some great feedback. I'm hoping we'll get the same. So if you missed the live one tonight, you'll get to see it. I'll replay on YouTube tomorrow. I'll have it up ready to go. But I'm excited about this season, buddy, and it's really great to do the show with you.
Hey, and hit us up with questions, man. It's always good to hear what everybody else is asking about. I want to know what everybody else wants to know. Yeah,
exactly. Give us questions on the channel. Give us. You can message me on Facebook. You can put it on the YouTube. But and the same with him on the YouTube. Hit us up with questions. That just only makes the show better for you guys. So, I'm Dash. That's Eric, and this has been Chalk Talk. And we'll see you next Tuesday.
God bless.
See you, buddy.